Hello, YouTube. Apparently, in the comment section, I was told that I look like the singer of Blind Guardian, which is Hobbit metal. Best reason ever to cut my hair. Um, so, I wanted to make this last video around Psy. Um, and they're having the debate on Saturday night, or the Bible thumping wingnut show with Satan Bruggencate is on Saturday night, and I don't know if they'll let me on. I mean, I've made 2 videos and we'll see. Um, but if they were contemplating not having me on before, then this will probably seal the deal. um, so, but I wanted to. I thought of this. I've been thinking a lot about Psy's script, Psy's way of approaching apologetics. Been thinking a lot about it because I think it's genuinely fascinating. I think it's genuinely interesting. And on top of that, I've been thinking about it because if I do go in for a debate, I want to be prepared, right? um, and well, if I do go into a debate, I want to be prepared. But I stumbled across this curious feature of my thinking about this. I realized that I had a black hole, or a black spot in my thinking about Psy, which is that I can't. It's really hard to account for why Psy is an apologist, right? That is, apologetics really has one of two functions historically. One is to either convince the non-believer or to defend the faith, right? So it's sort of offensive and defensive. But Psy already admits that he can't convince anybody, right? That's not his job as the apologist. So the fact that he can't convince anybody seems to me to suggest that he's not an apologist to convince the non-believer. It's just clear, right? On the other hand, he also affirms that everybody is always already a Christian, right? They're just in rebellion against God or something like that. So for me, that implies that Psy would have no reason to defend the faith. So he can't be on either side of this, right? So it's very difficult to think through why Psy is an apologist, right? And on the other hand, I don't think that he's, the answer that I think a lot of atheists might come with is that he's purely cynical. He purely wants to make money, right? Or something like that. But that's obviously not the answer. It can't be the answer, right? Because he would be, if it was merely that, he wouldn't want to, he wouldn't be spouting the version of Christianity that he is. It's not a very popular version of Christianity. So it's not money, it's not offense, and it's not defense. So why then is Psy an apologist? It seems like a remarkable question. He says that the function of apologetics is to shut mouths, right? To close mouths or something like that. And I don't think that that's sufficient motivation for him to do this as a career, right? To do this for a living, right? To just shut people's mouths. That doesn't seem to be particularly edifying. So there has to be another reason. It seems that there just simply must be. And I was thinking about this for a long time in my head, and then I started to think about, well, what is it that Psy does, and how does he do it, right? So on the one hand, he apparently has to engage with the atheist. And I don't think it's just because he's an apologist. I think that it's probably a compulsion. I think that he needs, in some way, his faith would be incomplete if it weren't for the atheist. He needs the atheist to participate in this activity of capitulating his own beliefs, right, or his own assumptions about reality, or something like that. He needs the atheist. It's like it's very similar to people playing tennis against a wall, right? People do this, to basically get better at playing tennis. Psy plays tennis against the atheist. The atheist who his system of questions renders totally inert, like a wall, right? Um, so he's just playing tennis against the wall to make himself a better believer, right? But and presumably to vindicate whatever Christians might be watching at the same time. So there's this vicarious sort of voyeuristic element of it as well. But then you think about somebody like Ray Comfort, for instance, who's probably doing something similar. But Ray Comfort is willing to listen to the atheist. He's willing to talk. He's willing to have a conversation. Yeah, he has a script also, a script of points that he can read word for word. But it's a very, he's willing to have a conversation. He's willing to have a dialogue. Sai's script that he relies on the other hand, is it doesn't allow for the other person to talk, right? Sai's script, it seems like it's designed to keep the atheist at bay, to keep them at arm's length. You can't let them get too close. You can't let them say too much, right? And this is what's fascinating, right? The script that Sai has created, and the methods that he uses to force people to stick to that script are, very clearly establish this buffer zone between him and the atheist. And that in and of itself is very interesting, right? So on the one hand, he needs the atheist to capitulate his belief, but on the other hand, he can't let them get too close, right? He needs to keep them out here. It's as if it would be too traumatic to let them get close, to let them actually say things, you know what I mean, and to actually engage in some kind of dialogue, right? That would be too much. It's like, stay over there, right? We'll keep you in the corner so that we can look at you, but don't talk, right? So that's kind of what's happening. But why, right? Why is that the case? Why is this the preferred method, right? And it seems to me that there's only one answer. It's similar to, and this might come off as offensive, and I honestly don't mean it to be, but the psychology of it seems to be very similar to saying, to as Zizek talks about suicide bombers, and how it's not that they're in an ecstatic state of faith. It's quite the opposite, actually. What's actually happening is that, maybe by this act I can prove that I believe. Right? Maybe by this act I can this dramatic act I can objectify my belief in the world. So that's what's going on in the suicide bomber, and I think that what Sai is doing is psychologically somewhat similar. By this act of talking to the atheist, and mind you, it's a public act, right? It's not a private act. So by this public act of talking to the atheist, Sai is affirming his own faith, but he can't let it get too close, because he can't let the atheist get too close, I think, because it would reveal his own, or he's nervous that it would reveal his own unbelief, right? So this is my contention. I think that Sai 10 Bruggencate is an atheist. I think that he is incapable of belief. But at the same time, this is a traumatic fact for him. He can't do it, right? He can't admit that, right? So he needs to. So when he's interacting with the atheist, what he's doing is he's interacting with himself. He's interacting with a mirror image, and he's debunking the atheist. And what he's doing is he's trying to debunk his own unbelief in himself, right? So he projects this image of himself and then debunks that. But he needs to keep it at this explains, obviously, why he needs to keep it at arm's length, right? So it explains the compulsion, it explains the script, it explains the methods for sticking to the script, etc., etc., etc. and it explains it, this sort of machine, right? This perpetual motion machine that's created here. You know, I don't believe, therefore I need to engage the atheist, and then therefore, which affirms my faith, but then I don't believe, so I need to engage the atheist, right? This sort of circular perpetual motion machine then leads to, probably leads to a career in apologetics. Um, but, yeah, I mean, and this would also explain why the script that he uses is so asinine. Obviously, if he wanted to know about first principles, if you wanted to know about how we know things, right, there's plenty of really good stuff on the subject, right? There's plenty of good stuff that's internally coherent without Christianity. So, I mean, you could take Wittgenstein's ordinary language philosophy, you could take Husserl's phenomenology, you could take uh, American pragmatism, that's the third one. And I do subscribe to probably a version, or sort of like a synthesis of all three of these in one way or another. The fact is, Psy's his whole system of questions, right, his whole dialogue crashes on the rocks the second it hits any of those, I think. In other words, whenever it hits any philosophy after 1880 or something. So yeah, that's my thesis, right? I think that this is what I've come to. Saitan Bruggencate seems to have to be an atheist. It's the only way I can account for his existence. And yeah, thank you, and have a good day.